Like, I've always been honest and pretty much an open book with you guys. Many of you know I'm married, I'm 40 years old. It's just the way I decided to live my life. That used to be not only the norm, but the American dream. But as it turns out, there's fewer and fewer people my age who can make the similar claim. According to Pew Research Center, 1 out of every 4 Americans had never been married by the age of 40 as of 2021. Now take a look at that same statistic in 1980. That figure was only 6%. In 4 decades, that figure has skyrocketed, far surpassing previous highs that we saw as far back as 1910. So what does all this mean, especially when the U.S. is not replacing its own population fast enough as the largest generation is retiring and enter the Social Security recipient years? Here to provide some insight on that is Dr. Ben Carson, Professor Emeritus at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and former HUD Secretary. Secretary Carson, appreciate you being here. What does this mean for society if we're just not tying the knot and putting roots down?
Well, it's a very serious problem. Ronald Reagan said that the American family is the cornerstone of our society. And a lot of our enemies, particularly our Marxist enemies, have said in the past that our faith and our families are our Achilles heel. That's the area that you can attack to bring America down. And there's been a lot of that going on. Our children are not seeing good examples anymore. They used to grow up with traditional nuclear families. You just aren't seeing that. And over 35% of children by the age of 16 have lived in a household where there was cohabitation as opposed to marriage. So if this is becoming the norm for them, it's probably a pattern that they're going to repeat. And then we see faith being thrown out completely, morality, the very concepts that our country was built on. Is very problematic, and we're teaching our young people that all of our principles were wrong, and we're actually pretty evil people. And all of this is having a very deleterious effect, and I think those of us who know better have to be very aggressive. We can't passively sit by and just complain about what's going on because there's too much at stake. If this country goes down, I guarantee the rest of the world goes down too.
Yeah, well, Doctor, the bigger thing that concerns me is, like, obviously our economic system is set up so the next generation supplies the Social Security for the next one because that money's long gone. But when you have a group of people, my generation, look, I was born in '83, that doesn't want to have these types of things. They don't want to have the commitment of having kids, maybe, or if they do, they're having them out of wedlock, which we know that attributes to much, much higher incarceration and crime rates. What do we do as a nation to at least start fixing it?
Well, we're going to need some leadership. This is something that's sorely missing right now. We need people who can inspire people to do the right thing. We've got plenty of examples of the wrong thing. Who are the heroes these days? Who does Hollywood put up? These people who are jumping from bed to bed, from relationship to relationship. There's no emphasis on establishing a family. And 40% of babies in this country are now born out of wedlock. And many statistics have shown us that children who come from a nuclear family with a father and a mother do much better than those who come from other circumstances. Yeah. But we are in the process of saying, no, it's not true. And every family is exactly the same and everything is equal. We have equity. You can't be saying stuff like that. What a bunch of crap.
Yeah. I think you summed it up perfectly. I want to take a look at another Pew Research Center poll. Here's a breakdown of gender and ethnicity. Men slightly outpace women, but what really stands out here is the rate of the unmarried black members of the black community. Nearly every other black person at the age of 40 is unmarried, and that far outpaces other ethnicities. What do you think attributes to this, but also what can be done?
Well, I think we started seeing this trend with the Great Society of Johnson many years ago. And we started creating policies that actually rewarded some of the women for having babies out of wedlock and punished them if you brought another person into the household who was earning an income. Wow. So these are very perverse incentives, and they lead to this kind of thing. And when I was secretary, I found out that there were a lot of people up on the Hill who were not sympathetic to my wanting to change that. Wow. They wanted to keep people in that situation. And we're going to have a critical mass of legislators and the executive branch people who understand the importance to our society, to our existence for these things. You know, here we are pushing things like transgenderism and things that ultimately lead to the extinction of society. We're just not thinking. And this is not to say that we should be mean to anybody. Everybody gets equal rights, but nobody gets extra rights. And we got to start thinking logically and not just being carried away by fanciful thought.
Yeah, well, Doctor, we've got a generation of who's probably never seen a hardship, and I think that's factoring in right now as they get older and enter the workforce. Dr. Ben Carson, always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Carl.